I tend to subscribe to a similar view that yes, there will be technology disruptions introduced every time we have one of these major technological leaps forward, but there will be new jobs created.
How many organizations have got good governance in place for this stuff, Paul? It's so new. I mean, are you seeing, is it becoming increasingly common? Are most organizations still putting this together? Where are we at? Let's say in the UK context, where are UK businesses at in terms of having sufficient governance in place?
The discussion that a lot of our teams have had been having over the last couple of years has been at the board level. I mean, that's one of the attributes of working in the audit profession is that a lot of our teams spend time with audit committees and with board members. That's the discussion that a lot of our teams are having around the world around technology. And what we're seeing is a lot of board members are actually saying, well, hang on, we need to go back and we need to challenge our organization to actually make sure that they've got the right governance in place, that they've got the right controls in place. So I'm just thinking about if some of the most recent surveys that we have done with our clients globally and around different area parts of our business, indicate that there's still work to be done. There is still
Yeah,
work to be done. I think that organizations realize that this is an imperative, but they also recognize that the pace of change is so fast at the moment that it's
yeah,
a real struggle to keep up. And that's where we continue to emphasize to the organizations that we serve that having from the top of the organization down, organizations really need to be thinking about the risks of artificial intelligence as well as the
yeah.
opportunities and rethinking whether or not they have the right technology governance in place to help steer how to use and embrace this technology within their organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, let's quickly use this as a segue. You're talking about skills, the pace of change. Okay, so I want to maybe take that back to the talent and skills gap. So, in your opinion, are universities and the education system moving quick enough to keep up with the demand within industry in terms of skills or cross transferable skills for AI dominated lines of work?
I think what you'll see is a couple of imperatives for academia and academic institutions over the coming years, where first off, making sure that if you're a student going through an academic institution today, you're having a very, very different experience to the one who would have gone through that same institution 10 years ago. When you've now got the power of generative AI type tools at your
Yeah,
fingertips, it can accelerate your learning experience, but it also has the potential to hinder your learning experience. One of the things that I certainly learned when I was going through my studies as a student is how to research, how to structure an argument, how to succinctly summarize information. Well, guess what? Generative AI can do all of that for you today. And that will force, I think, and that also already creates a very different discussion that we need to be having about what are the things that people will learn when they go through, for example, a university, but
yeah,
what are some of the skills that they might not learn because they have AI at their fingertips? That's one piece. The second item, though, Gareth, is also about that supply chain of talent into different industries in the future, including into the audit profession, because I think increasingly academia is going to need to think about the types of learning experiences that students will need to go through in order to immerse themselves in technology and the types of new roles that would exist at the moment. Because we're seeing at the moment, industries are being transformed and disrupted because of this technology all around us.
absolutely. Yeah.
And so there will be, yes, there will be roles today that don't exist in the future, but there will also be new roles. And so I think it's going to be increasingly important that industries and academia come together to evaluate what those potential transformations or disruptions might look like, And what does that actually mean in terms of the types of academic programs that will be available in the future in order to equip people with the right skills and experiences that they'll need going forward? But also to think about, well, hang on, what do we need to make sure that we don't end up with a gap around, right? Because the risk is that myself, we might have had certain types of experiences 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago that really helped us get ready for our careers. And actually, you might not have those types of learning experiences today because AI is such a booster for you. And so I think we also need to think about the risks associated with AI being used in an academic environment or an academic setting, as well as the opportunities that will exist in the future for people to build new careers and new types of roles because of the disruptions happening around us.
And just on the topic of disruption, I think you may have covered this in your politics studying days, but in going back to the Industrial Revolution and every single disruptive technology innovative period since then, we've seen generally a loss in jobs, but then a sort of a J curve, and then new jobs get created as a result of this new technology. We saw Industrial Revolution, Digital Revolution, dot-com boom, etc., etc. Is this the same, Paul, or is this different? Because this does feel different, doesn't it? It feels like technology is coming for the white collar jobs big time this time around. So it does feel a little bit different. And I'm a history graduate who studied this, and I'm
Mhm.
saying that. But I don't know. What do you think, Paul?
I tend to subscribe to the similar view that yes, there will be technology disruptions introduced every time we have one of these major technological leaps forward, but there will be new jobs created. And let me give you an example, even from our own profession. An auditor 5 years from now might not be doing this manual tick and tie type work of comparing one document to another. But an
Yeah,
auditor's role and the scope of the audit, we expect, has the real potential to expand over the coming years. Because of the way that our clients are implementing technology, they're revisiting what type of data they have, they're looking to introduce AI into their business. There's going to be an expectation around around the expansion of the scope of the audit. I see a great potential over the next 10, 15 years where the scope of the audit can expand to actually be more forward looking and actually focused around the actual underlying technology that our clients
sure.
will implement. And so whether it's evaluating if they have the right if an organization has the right technology governance, if they have the right controls in place, evaluating the robustness of the underlying data that our clients will be using, or the accuracy of the AI that they're using, I think we see enormous opportunity that actually over the next 10 to 15 years, the scope of the audit will expand as a result of this technological disruption that we're faced with as a result of AI. And that will create very different types of experiences for that next generation of audit professional. So
Mm.
going from being this more kind of backwards looking detective type professional to a much more forward looking and IT focused professional. That's where I see a very different type of experience for that next generation of audit professional.
Yeah, I understand you may be a little bit biased, so because you work in the audit world. But do you think enough regulation is in place at the moment in terms of the AI governance?
So, look, I think that different jurisdictions have it looked to address regulations, whether it's the EU AI Act in the European Union or different regulatory responses in other jurisdictions. Um, what I think you're seeing right now is actually that across those jurisdictions, different standard setters, different public policy makers are all looking to make sure that actually they're trying to manage the risks of artificial intelligence while also encouraging innovation. And it all comes back to those principles of responsible AI. So, how do you make sure that technology is being used in a way that is respective of those responsible AI principles? How do they make sure technology is being used in a way that is responsive to things like how to manage data securely, but at the same time how do you make sure that you encourage innovation? So there's like different jurisdictions have different views on how that should take place and the level of regulation required. From my side, what we need to do at EY is make sure we understand those different regulations. So for us, the discussion with our clients is actually, have you considered the risks of AI? Do you understand the regulations that you might need to address, especially if you're a multinational organization? And are you
Yeah.
actually compliant with those regulations in those markets? That's for us the discussion that we're having with different organizations, because it has been and continues to be a very dynamic regulatory environment that we're in. And that's where all the again comes back to the discussion we had about governance. An organization needs to have the right technology governance in place over its implementation of AI, because that needs to take into account those changing regulatory dynamics as well.